Okay, let's go to مفعول مطلق. مفعول مطلق. مفعول مطلق. No. So it says المفعول المطلق is a masdar that appears after a verb and normally has the same root letters of that particular verb. Do you have a footnote there on the word normally? It says المفعول المطلق can have different root letters but similar meaning. Right? And he gives an example. جلست قعودا. I sat a sitting. So the word jalasa means to sit. The word qa'ada also means to sit. So you can replace the maf'ul, or the maf'ul mutlaq is when you have a verb used, then after that verb you mention the masdar of that verb, right? One of the other ways of a maf'ul mutlaq appearing is that after the verb you have a masdar which has the same meaning as the verb. You understand that? So the one is jalastu, I sat, jalsatan, a sitting. Another one is jalastu, I sat, qu'udan, a sitting. Make sense? We're going to the reason for the maf'ul mutlaq. We're going to mention a few reasons, right? So maf'ul mutlaq is a masdar that appears after a verb and normally has the same root letters of that particular verb. So that's the first point that you want to understand about the maf'ul mutlaq. Most times the maf'ul mutlaq will come with the same verb, right? Um, will come with the masdar of the verb. The maf'ul mutlaq will appear for one of the following reasons. Number one, to emphasize the verb, right? So when does the maf'ul mutlaq appear to emphasize the verb? If you only see the maf'ul mutlaq, then it comes to emphasize the verb. For example, jalastu jalsa, I really sat, right? So you're emphasizing the verb there. So you can say I sat a sitting, or you can say I really sat, I seriously sat, I sat intently. So for example, you want to say like, we sat 4 hours for that exam. He says jalasna jalsatan, we sat now, like if I ever sat, that was a sit. That's maf'ul li ajlihi, right? He says darabtuhu darban, like he really, he like hit him. I'm talking about he now, if there was a hit, you understand, that's the effect of maf'ul mutlaq. Now he hit him, and that was a, he beat him a beating, right? So you see that it's somewhat used in the English language as well, right? It says sharabtu shurban, I drank a drinking. This is now, that was, he now really took a gulp of that. That was now a sip, if I ever saw a sip. Right? Isn't it so? Somebody asks you for a sip of your drink. And that's when you're much smaller. When you're older, you get like, more generous. Islam and all of that stuff, right? The person can drink your whole can, it's fine. But when you're very small and the nafs is still untamed, then somebody says, give a sip, and you drink a little bit. He says, yeah, that is how a sip. Right? So that's maf'ul mutlaq. That's maf'ul mutlaq, right? We say, he sat a sitting, he drank a drinking, he he hit a hitting, like that, right? So if you find the masdar is repeated and there's no word afterwards, it's just the verb and the repetition of the masdar, then it will be to emphasize the verb. It will be to emphasize the verb, right? The intensity with which that thing is done. And obviously, here's an important note that every verb has its own expression of intensity. You understand that? Every verb has its own expression of intensity, but they can all be expressed by the maf'ul mutlaq. For example, when I say darabtu, not darabtu, let's leave that. Fatahtuhu fathan, I opened it, I opened. You say what? um, he opened it widely, for example. That's that's not just open it. He opened widely. That's a that's an that's an expression of intensity of opening. He says, "Darastuhu darsan." I studied it. This is I studied it intensely, or I studied it deeply. Right? So the translation is going to differ in accordance with the word. For example, you're going to say, "Mashaytuhu mashaytu mashyan." I walked a walking. Right? So what are you going to say? I walked, for example, uh, uh, a lengthy walk, for example. Or you're going to say, قطعته قطعا. I cut it a cutting. Right? So say, um, I cut it, I don't know. I severed it, for example. Right? So what is the point? Excuse me? As- yes. So it's not a sifa exactly. When it's on its own like that, then it wants to tell you that this thing was done intensely. And my point that I'm making to you here, the secondary point, is that the intensity of each thing is measured by the nature of that thing. So when you say he drank a drinking, that would be different to saying he hit a hitting. If you didn't want to say he drank a drinking, you will say he gulped, for example. Right? If you want to say hit, this is he um, um, bolstered or bolstered, right? So you can you can use one word to express the phenomena of maf'ul mutlaq taking place. You understand my point? Or you could go the simple route of saying he hit a hitting. But the native English speaker won't understand what you mean. You say he hit him a hitting. Like, you know, it doesn't quite make sense if you're not a student of Arabic. So how do you convey the meaning, right, from the Arabic, right, without losing it when you translate it in the English? It is to understand that this is the what is meant behind this is intensity, and to express intensity will depend on the thing that is being intensified. Right? I hope that point is clear. So that's one. So the maf'ul mutlaq will appear, right, as a mastar after the verb. And if there's nothing else mentioned, then it will be to emphasize the verb. And the emphasis will be in accordance with the verb. The second is to provide a description of the verb. And you call this mubayyinun lin-naw', description of the verb. This description for me, I wanted to put there slash typification. Typification. Or you can say categorization. I would have put. It is to provide a description, a typification, or a categorization of the verb. Meaning what? What's an example of this? Um, so, for example, you say, um, فرحت, I was happy. فرحا بسيطا, a slight happiness. So you now don't want to emphasize that you were very happy, but you want to typify your happiness. You want to categorize your happiness. You want to describe the nature of your happiness. So you say, I was happy, a slight happiness. Right? I was happy, a slight happiness. I don't know if there's more examples here. Here's a good example. It says أقدمت إقدام الشجاع. Or you can say أقدم إقدام الشجاع. He approached. إقدام الشجاع means the approach of bravery, meaning he approached with bravery. So you want to say أقدم إقداما. He now really came. He came with seriousness. No, you want to say he came with bravery. So typification, you're saying that you أقدم means to arrive. So he says he arrived with bravery. What do you mean by that? You want to speak about the nature of his arrival. What type of arrival did he have? How do you categorize that arrival? Was it the arrival of cowards? Was it the arrival of victory? It was the arrival of bravery. Make sense? Right? So the second is to provide a description of the verb. What do we mean by that? We want to categorize the verb. In what manner did that action take place? What type of action was that? Then the third reason would be to specify the number of times the verb occurred. And that you call مبين للعدد. And you know the word عدد by now, right? مبين للعدد. To specify the number of repetitions. So for example, you say سجدت سجدتين. No, or you say سجدت سجدة واحدة. Make sense? So I prostrated سجدتين twice. That's nasb, right? سجدت سجدة واحدة. I prostrated once. So you're not saying I really prostrated. If you had to say sajadtu sajdatan, then you say he prostrated, like a lengthy prostration, a serious prostration, a devout prostration. But now when you say sajadtu sajdatan wahidatan, you just say prostrated once. You see that? Two different examples. Let me take you back. At number one, we said that if the maf'ul mutlaq appears and there's nothing else to connect it to it, then it's to emphasize the verb. So you say sajadtu, I prostrated, sajdatan, a prostration. What is another way of translating that? I prostrated devoutly or intensely, right? But now, when the maf'ul mutlaq appears with another verb, with another word in nasb, for example, sajadtu sajdatan latifatan, I prostrated a light prostration. That is what? Mubayyinun lin-naw'. It tells you the type of prostration. But sometimes it can come mubayyinun lil-adad to tell you how many times. Sajadtu sajdatan wahidatan. I prostrated once. So can you see? So number one, when the maf'ul mutlaq appears on its own, then it's for emphasis. But when there's something attached to it, then it will either be to tell you the nature of that verb, right? Or it will tell you the number of repetitions of that verb. Make sense? It make sense to you? Make sense? Fine. Okay, what is unclear? Hmm? To emphasize the verb. Okay. Inna fatahna laka. Certainly fatahna, we opened laka for you, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Aren't you guys doing Surah Fath now? Fathan, an opening. Mubinan, a clear opening. So this will be maf'ul mutlaq, mubayyinun lin-nawa'. This is the maf'ul mutlaq that is explaining to you the description of the verb. What was the nature of the opening? It was a clear opening. I'll do the second one. Wallahu ambatakum, and Allah sprouted you forth. Min al-ardi, from the earth. Nabatan, I sprouting. I don't know if this is correct. I don't know if this is a correct example. I doubt this example. Let me check it. Mm-hmm. Uh, okay. I don't know how to translate this one. Mm. Allah caused you to grow from the earth a growing. Okay. This is a bit of a complex example. It's not, you can translate it very simply. You can translate it like that. But I myself do now. This is an example of maf'ul mutlaq. Alright. So طيب. ورتل القرآن ترتيلا, that's a clear one. فيميلون عليكم ميلة واحدة, that's a clear one. وتحبون المال حبا جما, that's a clear one. فاصبر صبرا جميلا, that's a clear one. واهجرهم هجرا جميلا, that's a clear one. وسرحوهن سراحا جميلا, that's all clear ones. طيب. Okay, do until number 27. Page number 27. In the meantime, I will look up this. والله أنبتكم من الأرض نباتا. Right? I'm not saying it's a wrong example. I'm just saying I don't understand how it's maf'ul mutlaq. I understand how it's maf'ul mutlaq, but I can't appreciate the language. So I will look it up and see what the scholars say about it. So do page number 26 and 27. Inshallah. You will notice that the instruction on page number on both of them is maf'ul mutlaq and also explain the function. Right? So I want you can do this, right? If it is to specify the number, then write 3 next to it in brackets. If it is to describe the verb, then write 2. If it is simply for emphasis, then 1. Okay? You understand that? So like for example, over here, you would have written 2. Can you see that? Right? It's on the switch there. Over there, you would have written 2. Right? Let me just pull that up. There is it. Now it's on the La ilaha illallah. Over there, you would have written 2. Right? You understand that? So your number will indicate to you what you think the purpose of the maf'ul mutlaq is. Right? طيب. Okay, we suffice for that. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الحمد لله رب العالمين.